Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, another Tyranid Learning Curve for you. More HQs, although it's not really going to be a HQ video. It's the good old Tervigon. Now the reason why I say it's not going to be a HQ video is because if you're taking the Tervigon, you should be taking it with the troops option that's available to it, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But either way, it's in the HQ slot, so that's where I'm placing it within this Tyranid Learning Curve. So I want to forget about the past. I don't really want to talk too much about the Tervigon and how it was and what it used to be like and how it's been nerfed from that. I just want to talk about it as a unit on its own as it stands right now. So the unit is 195 points. Stat wise, we're looking at weapon skill 3, ballistic skill 3. It's strength 5 with toughness 6, 6 wounds, initiative 2. It's got 3 attacks, nice leadership 10, and a 3+ save. It comes complete with siding talons and a stinger salvo, which is assault 4, 18-inch strength 5 gun with AP 4, which more often than not I forget to shoot, to be fair. I have started to remember to shoot it, but I certainly went quite some time without shooting the gun. But anyway, he is a synapse creature, which is great, especially in how we're going to use him, which we'll talk about in a second. He of course has Shadow of the Warp, and he's a Psyker. It's a Mastery level 1 Psyker, knows powers from the Hive Mind, which will instantly give you the Primaris power, which gives you an extra 6-inch extended synapse. So a nice 18-inch synapse range potentially there. Right, so we talked about him being a troop's choice. So what we need to do is we need to make him a troop's choice, and we need to basically take a unit, a full strength unit of 30 Gants, that's Termagants. When we do that, we can then take this guy as a troop's choice. So we're looking at a monstrous creature, a psychic monstrous creature with objective secured as a troop's choice. I'm pretty sure there's no other codex which have those stats available to them as a troop's choice. So, as I said, that's pretty much how you should be taking him. But you do have to pay for 30 Gants to do that. But that's not too bad, because that gives you a nice little defensive unit, and primarily, although not exclusively, you will be using the Tervigon as a backfield objective holder, you know, as I said, a troop's choice objective secure holder. Now, he has the ability to spawn out Gants, more Gants. It is pretty random, so you basically are able to spawn 3 D6 Gants per turn. Now if you roll a double, you stop spawning. Now you can probably see I've got a little Gant on the bottom of my base, and actually just a quick chat about my model. It's not a real Tervigon, not the actual model. I made mine way before we went about 2 years without there being a Tervigon model, so I just converted this up out of a Carnifex. I basically green stuffed on these top carapace pieces, beefed out his arm sections, did some work under his belly. There's like a Gant coming out of his belly, and I also magnetised this Gant onto the base. And the reason I did that was so that if he rolls a double and he stops spawning, I can just take this Gant off, he fits onto that base, and now I've got a marker basically that he can't spawn anymore. So yeah, you're going to be spawning. Now there are some things with that. You are able to move because the spawning is done at the end of the movement phase. Once you spawn, those spawn Gants, which have to be placed within 6 inches of him, they can only shoot and they can only run. They can't move and they can't assault. And also you can't take any upgrades, so it's got to be just a basic Gant. The Tervigon has the progenitor special rule, which basically means that all the Termagants units within 12 inches of him have the counter-attack special rule, which is pretty decent, especially if you consider you don't have to roll for initiative anymore, you just automatically get counter-attack. The downside is that it has the backlash special rule, which means if he dies, all the Gants within 12 inches have to take a Strength 3 AP 0 hit with no cover saves allowed. So once you get down on wounds, bearing in mind you don't want to be too close to any Gants. Of course, he has all the normal monstrous creature stats: Hammer and Wrath, Fear, Smash, Move Through Cover, Relentless, AP 2, so pretty decent stats right there. You've got a few options, the usual ones being Adrenal Glands, Toxin Sacs, Regeneration, Acid Blood. I think Regeneration is probably pretty useful on this guy. As I said, he's going to be at the back. He's probably going to take 1 or 2 last cannons or missiles at him, and having the ability to regenerate a wound on a 4+ every turn, pretty decent. So I would say it's not an essential thing, but if you have the points, it's probably worth looking at taking regeneration on this guy. He can take the grubs, larvae or beetles, just giving him some like template weapons. I wouldn't necessarily go for that. You do have the option to take Crushing Claws if you want to make him a bit more close combat orientated. Crushing Claws for 15 points isn't a bad shout. You could potentially even upgrade his gun to Cluster Spines just for 5 points. That gives him a large blast, strength 5, still 18 inches, but for 5 points, it's not a bad upgrade if you've got to spare 5 points. You are able to give him once per army special abilities, so you can take the Maw Claws of Thorax. Again, if you want to make him a close combat creature, then you know, give him Rending and Assimilate, which gives him preferred enemy. As soon as he kills a model, he has preferred enemy. Yeah, it's pretty decent. You could potentially give him the Reaper of Blickerax. 45 points is pretty expensive, but it will make him initiative 5. So again, if you want to make him close combat orientated, then that is potentially an option. Now, there is something else with this guy, but let's first have a look at how we can use him defensively. So defensively, he's basically going to sit at the back. He's going to automatically have 30 Gants around him. He's going to generate some Gants. Bear in mind that the Gants that he generates will not have objective secure. Now, I tend to use him in that way behind a defense line with a Venom Thropes. You know, that gives him a 2+ save, 2+ cover save behind the defense line. That's pretty decent, and you know, it works as a nice defensive unit. Now, options for this guy is to get Hive Commander and one of your other units within the HQ slots, which is probably going to be a Flyrant. Take Hive Commander, which lets you flank a troop's choice. So you could actually flank this guy. Now, bear in mind that you can spawn after you move, means you can move on, then you can spawn out some Gants. I would suggest if you're going to be flanking him, the reason is because you want to try to get him into close combat. So it's probably worth taking some Crushing Claws with this guy if you're going to flank him. And just cause some trouble in your enemy's back line. That is pretty good right there as well. I personally don't use him like that. Personally, as I said, I use him in a more defensive role, but he certainly has the option to have that flank ability and cause some trouble, like I said, in your enemy's back lines. So I think overall, it's actually a pretty good unit. It is the type of unit which you probably are only going to have 1 Tervigon in your army, 2 probably at the most, and that's because of the you know, it becomes quite expensive. 195 points, you've got to buy your Gants. Potentially you want to put Regeneration on there. Potentially you want to put Crushing Claws on there. You know, it can be quite expensive, but just taking the base Tervigon with the Tervigon tax, that's pretty expensive right there. So gone are the days of having 5 Tervigons. You know, 1 Tervigon works really well, so it's still a pretty good option, and definitely something to consider for your. I always like to, as I said, I like to have him at the back, just something to have a nice monstrous creature in the back ranks, letting all my other stuff go forward, and the Tervigon with a Venom Thropes, some Gants around him. It's pretty decent. Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching as always, and so see you in the next upload.